And joining me now to discuss this, co-founder and president at the Rainey Center for Public Policy, Bishop Garrison, and the founder and president of Liberty Government Affairs, Brian Darling. Hey, guys, good to see you on a Sunday morning as usual. So as we get into this here, Bishop, I'm curious what you think of the president's assessment that anti-Semitism has taken root in the Democratic Party.
Good morning, and thank you for having me, as always. I do not agree with that. I think we do have a serious problem right now throughout the country with issues of anti-Semitism, as well as general hatred and hate speech that we definitely need to address as a country and look for bipartisan methods and policies that will help communities get past this hurdle. But I do not believe or do not agree with the idea that it's taken hold or is somehow greater in the Democratic Party than you would see anywhere. To the contrary, I think Democrats have done an incredible job of reaching out across a myriad of different cultural aspects to try to bring people together.
Interestingly, I'm looking at some stats from AP Votecast, and it shows that by a wide margin, 72% to 26%, Jewish voters broke for the Democrats. So there's the fact, according to that, with 2018 votes calculated. But yesterday, the president brought up Representative Ilhan Omar, who has previously been critical of U.S. policy towards Israel. Let's take a listen to what he said.
A special thanks to Representative Omar of Minnesota. Oh, I forgot. She doesn't like Israel. I forgot. I'm so sorry. Oh, no, she doesn't like Israel, does she? Oh, please, I apologize.
Sure. He said this just one day after a man was arrested for threatening to kill the Congresswoman, Brian. So are you okay with this type of decorum, this style, this rhetoric, this delivery from the president?
Well, I think it's awful that anybody threatened the life of any member of Congress, and it's a terrible thing. But I am okay with him pointing out through humor the fact that she does. That Congresswoman is not a fan of Israel, and she did say some things that were anti-Semitic to the point that members of her own party condemned her. So I think it is okay to make fun of her and use humor to make fun of her, because in this circumstance, her own party condemned her, and she has said some things that are considered anti-Semitic by so many Americans.
How about, as I play for both of you, what the president said about Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu? Take a listen to this.
I stood with Prime Minister Netanyahu. Benjamin Netanyahu. I stood with your Prime Minister at the White House to recognize Israeli sovereignty over the Golan Heights.
So he referred to Netanyahu as their prime minister, Brian. I mean, keep in mind the criticisms the president has levied against Representative Omar. What's your reaction to this? Just the tone, the demeanor, the way he delivers this.
Well, that crowd is very much in favor of Benjamin Netanyahu. So I think what he's basically saying is the guy that you support, who you want to see win in Israel. And I think that that's perfectly okay. I know that everybody on the left wants to accuse the president of anti-Semitism and racism and all these awful things. But in that case, I think he was just making the point that there are many pro-Israel Jewish Americans who support Benjamin Netanyahu because they think he's the best leader of that country.
All right,
Alex, if I could,
go ahead,
I just want to quickly say that I think it's not Democrats that are accusing the president of racism. I think it's the president that continues to make racist statements and continues to push forward policies that are not representative of what this country feels and what the country represents right now.
Let's change topics because I want to get to the president's finances here, specifically the tax returns requested by Congress this week. The president's new lawyer said in a statement, Chairman Neal's request is a transparent effort by one political party to harass an official from the other party because they dislike his politics and speech. Bishop, why should the American people believe that this probe isn't just, and I'm going to quote the president here, another witch hunt?
Well, continuously, presidential candidates throughout the years have done everything they can to provide their tax returns up until viewing the issues of Senator Bernie Sanders and President Trump, to be quite frank. So I worry that a president that is not forthright and willing to provide their tax returns over the past at least few years is absolutely problematic. What is this individual attempting to hide? To use the idea or the argument that the IRS is still conducting an audit is just not accurate. And the fact that the president has said in the past that he absolutely would at some point release his tax returns and now has continuously failed to do so is problematic.
Why, Brian, do you think the president does not release his tax returns? Because to Bishop's point, he has said repeatedly he was going to do it. He uses the word audit and says that he can't. But of course, we know legally he absolutely can, even though he's under audit.
He doesn't have to. We have very strong laws in this nation.
That was not the question. The question is, why do you think he doesn't do it?
Because there is some degree of privacy that individuals have even when they become president of the United States.
Then why does he say that he would do it, except that he's under audit, which means he can't do it, which is not true? Why would he say so many times repeatedly, I will, I'm going to do it? Said it on the campaign trail, started saying it back in 2011.
Well,
why doesn't he do it?
I think he should just be honest and say, I'm not going to give you my tax returns because I don't have to. I think the truth of the matter is that there is a degree of privacy that he wants to preserve. He may be using other excuses for not releasing them, but you know what? He doesn't have to, and he shouldn't be forced to.
Don't you think that if he had a lot to boast about, and in terms of his wealth and his philanthropic exclamations, that his taxes would show that?
Yeah, but the Democrats don't want it. The Democrats want it for one reason and one reason only. They want to bash him. They want to use it to knock him down for the 2020 election. They want to use Congress to get his taxes so they can leak it to the press so that information can be used against him in the next election.
Brian, we've been asking for his taxes for months. We've been asking for his taxes really for years now. Like, this isn't something that just popped up within the last cycle.
All right, listen, guys.
But Americans consider their tax returns to be one of the things that the government can't just let out and put out in the public domain. You get a 5-year penalty even though
every president since Richard Nixon has voluntarily, Richard was asked to do it, but has released their tax returns. Anyway, I do want to get one more thing in because I want to play for you both what the president, as in President Obama, said in Berlin yesterday.
One of the things I do worry about sometimes among progressives in the United States, maybe it's true here as well, is a certain kind of rigidity where we say, I'm sorry, this is how it's going to be, and then we start sometimes creating what's called a circular firing squad, where you start shooting at your allies.
Bishop, can I ask you to weigh in on that? What are your thoughts on what President Obama said?
My first thought is it's just wonderful to see a true world leader again speaking to a group of people, but representing the best of what Americans have to offer. But ultimately, I agree with what President Obama is saying here, and I think it is, I worry as well that it is potentially a problem within the current state of the Democratic Party. We have to remain flexible in the way that we approach the smartest policies across the board. We have to recognize that we're going to have individuals that are a little bit closer to the center. We're going to have individuals that are a little bit further to the left. But at the end of the day, we're all Democrats, we're all Americans, and we all want what's best for the country.
All right, Bishop and Brian, guys, that's a wrap for this Sunday. We'll see you next weekend.
Thank you.
Brexit chaos.